history isn't just what happened. It's what still matters. The decisions, the turning points, the stories that shape our present. This is history told forward. Conversations that look back to better understand what comes next.
Welcome, everybody, to History Told Forward. I'm your host, Don, and today we've got Laura Van Warmer. She is a creator of the Class of 74, a serialized fictional podcast set in the early 70s. The show blends nostalgia, drama, and rich historical detail, bringing small-town life in Connecticut vividly to life. A best-selling novelist and former Doubleday editor, Laura has published 14 novels with major houses. After surviving a near-fatal accident, she reinvented her voice through audio storytelling. Her work proves that the past still has the power to heal, connect, and entertain in the present. Let's welcome Miss Laura. How you doing?
Well, hi, Don. Thank you so much. That was very warm and lovely.
I appreciate it. So let's start out, because I've got to know. I was born in 74, so that's what actually
oh my God, you're just a child. But where's your mother? She'd love this podcast.
Yeah, she would. She absolutely would.
She'll remember. Nobody took care of their kids. Nobody knew where they were.
Yeah.
There were no cell phones. There was no such thing as videotape.
Nope.
Everybody drank and drove.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
It really was quite a time.
I remember the big station wagon my family had. Man, I was all over that thing, from the back to the middle to the side, everywhere. There was no seatbelts.
That's right. You didn't have to wear them.
No.
Well, that's what a lot of people like about. I thought I was doing, a soap opera about teenagers that happened to enter high school when I did, 1971. And, the kids in my class would listen, from the class of 74. Well, they do. And they did. And then we start looking and there's like, who's in Indonesia that's listening? Who's this in Ireland, England, Sweden? What is going on? And, my other half says, well, maybe they're learning English or something. I'm like, maybe. Thanks a lot. But it's the history. It's the period that is getting new listeners that I never thought I'd have.
Yeah.
Because Nixon was president.
Yep.
Your mom and dad will tell you all about that. And, the Jim Morrison, the lead singer of The Doors, had recently died of an overdose. And so had Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, and they called them, the 27 Club.
Okay.
Because they all overdosed at the age of 27.
Wow,
and
I did not know that.
No, and the heavy drugs weren't really in the suburbs yet. I grew up in a suburb of New York, and in 1971, all the men in town got on a train and went to New York City, and all the mothers stayed at home. And what people don't realize about the suburbs is that during World War II, after World War II, there were 6 million GIs could go to college on the GI Bill.
Yeah.
So you suddenly had this combination of young men and a few women who had gotten their skills refined in war, but came home and became things like accountants or they joined IBM, which in those days stood for I've been moved. And in those days, IBM had a uniform They all had to wear. In fact, all of corporate America, the men had a uniform, and it was a blue or brown or black suit, dress shirt, a tie, and tie Oxford shoes. I know it sounds so funny, but they all looked alike. And it wasn't until I started the podcast that a listener wrote me and said, well, you know why they all look alike at the train station, right? And I'm like, no. He said, because they were all in the service. They're wearing their uniform. They're doing what they think they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They went to war. They came home. The government says, you can go to college. So we all went to college, and you have a good profession, but you follow the rules. Mm-hmm. You get married. You have 2.4 children. You live in the suburb. And they all did. And what was sort of interesting about my town that I grew up in Brighton, it's just like my town. The older parents were in World War II, and the younger parents were in Korea.
Okay.
But almost all the men had been in the service somewhere.
Yeah.
And nobody was from the area. Everybody was from the South and the Midwest, just like my dad was from the Deep South. And, he had gone to school on the GI Bill. But we were the first generation, us kids, our parents saved for college because they had good jobs, because they worked hard in the armed forces and they went to school and they worked hard in business. And so we were the first generation that were told, you can be whatever you want, Laura, because the women's movement had started. Before it was 100% of the commuters on the train going into New York were men. And now it's 46% are women.
Yeah. I think, one of the things about that time frame, the mid to late 70s was there was a lot of the protesting, I think, had stopped, and now people are putting things in action and moving forward, Well,
the thing is, they changed the draft. Everybody forgets Nixon did a lottery draft.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just get out of service by saying you had bad feet, like some of the prominent people in America, but I'm not going to say any names, but they didn't go. And, and other young men went to Canada. I mean, Vietnam was just such a scary thing to people.
Yeah.
I have characters in the podcast that have, and it was just like in real life. We had 2 kids in our class whose older brothers were killed in Vietnam. And one was a Green Beret who was behind enemy lines in Cambodia trying to rescue a pilot who had crashed back there. And he got I can't remember the term, I think it was called a V-20 rocket. It was Russian made, I know that. And he took it in the chest so that the rest of his unit could get out, could get away. And we grew up with that legend, and then Scotty, my friend Scott's older brother, died too. And it was unreal to us in a way because the war was winding down. I mean, President Nixon knew nobody wanted to be at war anymore.
Yeah.
It was too expensive, number one.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what they said.
And on top of that, it was really a war that we should have never been in. We were provoked to go in, and it just happened to also benefit the politics at that time as well. And I can't even, the number is astronomical amount of good Americans lost their lives.
Oh my God. Every Friday on the news out of New York, we'd watch the list.
Yeah.
Like in a very bad week, it'd be as many as 1,200 young men.
Yeah.
And my parents, I mean, my dad was in the Army in the South Pacific, and my mother was with the Canadian Red Cross in London during the Blitz. So they were your classic World War, the greatest generations. They both, I think self-improvement is the American way.
Yeah.
You're born with circumstances, but I think it's very American that you try to be the best you can be. Yep. And they were like that. But when they started hearing what was going on, when Walter Cronkite, like in my podcast, The Class of 74, everybody's listening to Walter Cronkite saying, this war is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents were flipping out. I mean, it was, you mean there's no point to this?
It was very interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Band of Brothers.
Sure.
Okay, so there was an interview done in that, and there was something that really just has always stuck out with me. One of the guys was asked a question about how he dealt with PTSD and the other people from World War I and II, and his response was, we didn't have PTSD.
We didn't have any.
Yeah. He said that was, he said maybe you had some bad dreams or whatever, but they went away. And the guy said, well, let me ask you a question then. He said, why is it that the wars lately, there's so many veterans that have PTSD? And he said, because World War II was the last time we fought a war for the right reasons. And that every war since then has been politically and wars that should have never happened. And they said that's where the PTSD is coming from. Now, he's right in an aspect, but I don't think that's where PTSD is coming from.
Right. But I mean, it was a good point. It didn't exist. Yeah. You weren't allowed to.
Yeah.
And then it showed up in the drinking and smoking. Now that everybody smoked.
Yep.
Right. And everybody drank. And again, it was like the Army, you have the weekend off. So, it's leave, right?
Yep.
So the guys would take off their suits and grab their girls and drink up. But of course, there was no such thing as wife abuse or children's abuse. Insurance did not cover treatment for alcoholism.
I did not know that.
No, they didn't cover it. So there was nowhere to go.
Wow.
The VA, which has improved a lot. Yes. Well, one of the stories we have going on in the Class of 74 is there's a boy on the football team who's been taking steroids.
Okay.
And they were legal then, and coaches were giving them out like candy, right?
Yep.
But there would be these incidents where people went nuts, right? These big guys. And they put him in a hospital locally, just like we had here. And they let him go because his father's insurance didn't cover it. Being addicted to, drugs that wasn't part of the thing. AA was all men. Women couldn't go. So, I mean, in the suburbs, we had something called housewife's disease, that the alcoholic women just never left the house kind of stuff, and that hasn't changed much, has it?
No.
No, I don't want to get depressed because I got to tell you, Don, I write this series because I was getting depressed about everything going on in the world.
Right.
And so the show is very funny, but it's also nostalgic. But when we talk about that period seriously, there was a lot of margin for improvement, shall we say.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But, I think, to be honest, you can do that in a lot of the different areas. Maybe not the 90s. We didn't do anything in the 90s, but
right.
It was pretty boring. But
but you all did cocaine. That was
we did do some cocaine. Yep. 90s was the big part. I even think late 90s, early 2000s was when crack and the really horrible stuff started.
Yeah, the designer drugs designed to hook people. And
Yep.
yeah.
But I think there was also still some good stuff, the 70s, the music, you can't beat the music. That's where,
my God, I know. I saw the Allman Brothers and they were all alive.
Yeah.
And they're in the podcast. Going to Portchester to see them at the Capitol Theater.
Yeah.
And one kid skipped school to go see Led Zeppelin in Syracuse.
Yep. I love Led
Zeppelin. Right. And it just, the music was wonderful.
Yeah.
The movies were just hysterical, like Let's Scare Jessica to Death. This weird movie became this cult classic. But, of course we had, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and Barbara Streisand, On a Clear Day, You Can See Forever. Because the drive-in is in this show too. In fact, It takes up 4 episodes because there's so much going on. Because this one's with this one, but then that one started drinking. So then she's with him and he's with her, right?
Yeah.
All the, and the movies they're watching, Love Story is one of the ones they're watching with Ali McGraw and Ryan O'Neal, who's not even alive anymore, is he?
No.
But what's fun is going back to all this. I have to say, I started a Patreon page.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of that, right?
Yep.
Well, I have this little club there called the Detention Club for the class of 74. And all these guys, all they want me to do is to post my notes after every show. Because they want to look at all the stuff. When Chrissy Everett, she's 16 years old and she appears at Forest Hills for the first time.
Yeah.
And in her first match, she beats the 4th seed player. So everybody's like mad about Chrissy Everett. And so we watch that. But then you can go to, to the class of 74 and you can watch the match. Right?
Yeah.
You can watch Walter Cronkite talking about the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Or you can see that notes the statistics about insurance and what they covered and what they didn't cover. Because I didn't even realize how much research I was doing until, again, a listener asked me a question and I went, well, actually, I happen to have the answer to that. But it is fun.
Yes.
But it is a time capsule. And also, Don, after I do an episode, I'm 15. I'm 15.
I think too, that probably the only thing you couldn't fit in a time capsule was the bell bottoms, because some of those bell bottoms were huge.
Well, those are the illustrations for the episodes.
Are they really?
You'll see. Apple Podcast doesn't do the covers, but Spotify does.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see it. And the first episode, or how the season came about, are 3 girls' bell bottoms.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what we see. Yeah. A lot of artwork.
Yeah. That and the plain colors, like the browns and the blues, they were.
This episode is brought to you by Barracks Media, where your online presence becomes a real asset. Barracks Media builds professional websites for podcasters, creators, authors, and small businesses who are ready to be taken seriously. Not templates, not cookie-cutter pages, real platforms built to grow with you. Whether you're launching a podcast, promoting a book, or building a brand, your website should work as hard as you do. We design sites that convert listeners into followers and followers into clients. Visit barracksmedia.com and turn your idea into a home on the web.
We're all really pale,
The pastels were coming in. Yes, and Miami Vice wasn't even on the air yet.
Yeah.
No. Right. But the stripes and flowers, flower power, the fashion was everywhere.
Yeah.
And girls, were wearing 4-inch heels.
Yep. Platforms.
Yes.
Yep.
And, kids, my nieces and my great niece look at me like I'm crazy. You wore these back then? And we're
Yep.
like, yep. And we were crazier than you'll ever be because your mother and father will never let you because there's cameras everywhere in this world.
That is true. I was in the trucking world, and you talk to some of the old truck drivers, and they would tell you, back in the day, it happened, weekly. Somebody would drive by you and flash you and show you their boobs or their butt or something. They said that don't happen no more. Too many cameras. Everybody's got a cell phone, and
you got it.
It is just insane.
CB was just coming in for the masses.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it was just starting. So I haven't really done it. But what I did do, the Attica uprising happened.
Okay.
Right, where the prisoners overthrew the prison.
Yep.
And in one episode, Governor Rockefeller ordered the National Guard in, but he didn't want them anywhere in the prison because of what had happened at Kent State. They wanted to keep them away. But then, of course, what happened was they sent in the state police and the other prison guards, and they were up in these catwalks, and they started shooting. And so we have in the class of 74, characters are walking by the ham radio club room, and they've got a guy on the ham radio who's outside of Buffalo, New York, who's trying to reach the New York Times to break this story that there's shooting and people are being killed in Attica.
Wow.
So then the kids start, they just take them and say, okay, just write this down. So they write everything down. And so, of course, I had to learn all the protocol for ham radio. But then I got an email from my old next door neighbor saying, did you get this from my brother Gil, who had his ham radio? And I'm like, I guess I did. Because when there was a hurricane or any natural disaster, that was the only way you could reach anybody in the world.
Yeah.
And so that was a fun couple of episodes. And that actually did happen, that there was a reporter up at Attica because the phones had been shut down in the area because they didn't want anybody to know what was going on yet. Yeah. And of course, they found out that all the hostages that were killed and the prisoners were shot by the state police and the guards from the catwalk. Right? I mean, it was horrible. So now I'm getting all depressed again. All right.
That's the 70s. It's up and down.
Yeah. And the thing is, I should tell people, every ending is a cliffhanger, but you got to trust me. I'm your trusted narrator. I'm not going to take you anywhere you don't want to go. Now, you are going to see stuff like the Attica uprising, but you're not going to have to go there, and you don't see any dead people. And there are bullies, right? Bullies at school, right? Well, they're going to get their asses kicked. Right? Because this is my podcast and I can do whatever I want. And everybody has funny memories about high school.
Yeah.
If you were popular and athletic or good looking, I mean, you're good looking, so you were fine. But the bullies who would take these kids, there was no such thing as a gay person.
Yeah.
In 1971. Right. Okay. So these guys would lock boys up in lockers and leave them there.
Yeah.
For a day. Well, the class of 74, we're going to get back at them. Right? But drugs were coming into the suburbs.
Right.
And the kids were starting to deal. So that was interesting. People buying pot out of the trunk of people's cars in your high school parking lot.
Yeah.
Very.
Pot and hash. Those are probably the two main ones.
Yeah. But the pot, again, the young people have no idea. It's nothing like what you get now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was all like seeds and junk and
Yeah.
I mean, you had to smoke like, 5 bags even to get anywhere. Well, ask your mom; she'll tell you. But she was she had a baby, so she wasn't doing that stuff anymore, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it was, and so a lot of the episodes are about kids. I chose the 15-year-olds entering high school for a reason, because that was such an awakening to me, what the older kids were doing.
Right.
And, things like dating and how far do you go, on a date,
Yeah.
and if you go out with somebody who's really popular, they're going to make you want to go farther than you want to. But guess what? There was Planned Parenthood clinics then. There was the pill. The right to choose was a national law.
Yeah.
It was like 3 years old by then.
It's funny because, we've got that stuff, but we didn't have anything for addiction,
No, nothing. Don't get pregnant. And I think that was because of my mother and other women who were in like London during World War II, because of all the girls who got pregnant and killed themselves,
Right.
So birth control was a big issue in the women's movement. But yes, you're absolutely right. The insanity of it. But that's what happens when men are running things. No offense, because
we're just wired different.
There's nothing wrong with you mentally. Men don't have problems. It's only women. They're always crying, right? But that's just how they are.
Yeah. It is awesome the way you have done this, because it is important that stuff like this is documented, right? Fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't matter. The point being is, imagine what you are teaching people from 30, 40 years from now, that, the 70s are like George Washington to me and you. Yeah. They're going to get firsthand experience and storytelling and how people talked and the way they wore clothes and the things that they did. Yeah. And the music they listened to, talking about records. I guarantee you, the first time my kids ever seen a record, they looked at my wife and they said, "What kind of CD is that?" But that's what you're doing for people 30 years from now.
Cynthia and her friends are going downtown to buy a 45 of John Lennon's Imagine.
Yeah.
Because he and Yoko Ono just moved to New York.
Yeah. This was after the Beatles era, right? Beatles were the 60s.
They had broken up, and then in September, they moved to New York.
Yeah. Yep.
And they appeared on the Dick Cavett show. So that's a big episode when everybody's trying to stay up late to watch. Because people had bedtimes. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to tell you something, and then I'm going to call you again, because some of my classmates think we should do a nonfiction show and talk about the class of 74.
Yeah.
Because of what a listener wrote into me and said, "Are all you guys social liberals?" Why is this? I know my grandmother is. What is that about? And I'm like, well, no, there's fiscal conservatives, but there are a lot of liberals, social liberals from 74, because we were the first group to be told everybody's created equal in America. It doesn't matter if you're a woman. You can go to college. It doesn't matter if you're black. It doesn't matter if they didn't get to the gay stuff quite yet, but it was coming. But it never occurred to us that discrimination in any form was appropriate.
Right. Yeah. I think also, at that point, the Democratic Party was more like the Republican Party of today. And the Republican Party I think was more like the Democratic Party of today. You know?
When I tell people, remind them that Richard Nixon started the Environmental Protection Agency, they look at me like I'm mad.
Yeah.
And I say, who do you think started public television and public radio? It was Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
And that's all in the podcast too. It's, talking about, because no one thinks Nixon's a bad guy, but nobody knows yet what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
I was going to say, but every kid in town is bored to death because Pat Nixon's doing a White House tour on a Sunday night, and everybody's parents are making them watch it.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is amazing, and it's awesome. I'm excited for you on listening to how many people are resonating with your podcast.
It is fun because the young people are starting to come in because they're trying to figure out their parents.
Yeah.
Why are they the way they are?
And they're just, the times were so different back then.
Yeah.
The way people thought things was different. The things that were problems back then were, I'm not going to say small problems, but they were problems that were different than what problems we have today.
Oh, no question.
The advice your parents gave you back then was different. Back then it was, hey, if that kid keeps bothering you, punch him in the nose. He'll leave you alone, and now you're worried about if you
a lawsuit.
A lawsuit, or your kid punches another kid and he gets mad and comes back with a gun and shoots your kid. And, the problems are just extremely severe, and so the advice that you're giving has had to change. And
how old are your kids?
My son is 28, or he'll be 28 in February. And my daughter will turn 27 in January.
Wow. So you've been through the ringer with them.
Yeah.
About when they were teenagers, what was going on, because social media.
Yeah.
And social media seems to be one of the most destructive forces on the face of the earth.
Yeah. We moved from the town as our kids got closer to middle school because we didn't want the kids going to that a middle school for that area. And it was a rougher middle school. It was not very well funded. And the education wasn't that great. So we moved towns and went to a smaller town, moved out in the country just because we didn't want our kids raised in that environment. My kids' first cell phone was a walkie-talkie. And if they didn't check in every half hour or hour, and if I responded, they were too far away, but they had acres and acres of land to go run around on and go camping, fishing.
So they could have a childhood more like yours.
Yeah.
And mine, I had
I think I think you go back into the 70s and I'm not going to say life was simple, but man, it was, the things that you did and the life, like you said, kids were okay to go play outside.
Yeah.
Be home in the sunlight when the street lights come on.
We're just on the beginning of when right and wrong. Now, no one's so sure what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of it.
Yeah.
All the questioning, the war was really the big one.
I agree.
And what happened, the way I was brought up, that it was a disgrace what was happening to some of the returning veterans, and also what the shape the veteran administration was in those days. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
And fortunately that's changed, but
yeah. What year was it that Kennedy was shot? That was in the 70s as well.
No, that was 63.
63. Okay, you're right.
Yeah,
we
were our group. They're 15 and 71, so we're 7 years old. They were in second grade.
Yeah,
and everybody had to go home.
Yeah,
from school.
I think. Yeah, and that's again. Look at how pro-America everybody was. You're talking about, letting school out because the president was killed.
Yes.
Today, that would
Oh,
never happen. You
they
know,
wouldn't care. Right.
yeah, it would make the
Well,
news, but people would just go on about their life.
but what's going on, Don, like with your podcast, this technology is fascinating to me
Mhm.
because it's an equal opportunity medium
Yes. Yes.
and you can get the word out.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Unlike social media, where other people are, if this was social media, it would be, I'm inviting everybody except for you to this party,
Yep.
right? No.
Yeah.
Just, but talking and remembering and connecting. And I do think that podcasting has that intimacy
Yes.
where you genuinely can connect with people when you're
Yeah.
talking with them.
I'm a firm believer. Podcasting is the new media.
Mm.
I don't think that, obviously mainstream media will always be there, but I don't think it will ever have the foothold that it used to have to
Mm.
where it could literally convince you whatever it wanted to convince you.
Mhm.
Podcasting has basically became the fact checker for that. And
Yeah.
the cool part about that is I can listen to somebody for an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then when it's done, I get to decide whether I believe that, don't believe that, want to research it further, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But for that hour and a half, I was open-minded to listening to it.
Yes.
And
And you're not afraid to explore
right.
either.
Yeah, absolutely. Podcasting has taken me down, this started out as therapy for me, without even knowing it.
Really?
Yeah. So, my
To
first
talk
show,
about the war or
yeah.
the Middle East or
Yeah. So our first show was because we didn't know what podcasting was. Our first podcast was just us going Facebook Live every Friday, right?
well, that's cool though, but that's like pirate radio kind of.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
pirate.
Well, and it wasn't designed for everybody. We had a couple soldiers commit suicide, and so me and my old first sergeant decided we just wanted to do something where the people that we served with that we knew connected. And
Yes.
so we came up with this really funny name. And social media is not a great place to explore funny names because people take things too serious. But
and they're
so
I get it.
we called it Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room, and we filmed it in he owned a gun business.
They think you're a political action committee, right?
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah. We got it from both sides. There was no
Oh my
middle.
God. Right.
You either loved
right.
us or hate us. But people liked it so much they started sharing it. And then we started having guests come on and we started recording and actually doing the traditional podcasting thing.
Yeah.
And I found myself telling stories that I had never shared with people before. And these were strangers, but they were like-minded strangers.
But they were hooked into you too, and you knew that they were listening.
Yep.
And they wanted to understand.
Yeah. And so that led to a nonprofit. After year 2, I started a nonprofit for veterans that are trying to become musicians. And
fabulous.
Yeah, it's called Veteran Voice Radio. We got 2 radio stations. One, our country station our country station is Simplify Country, and our rock station is called Ranger Rockwave. Yep, you can download the apps; they're free.
Were you a ranger?
I was in the 160th, so I spent 10 years in the special ops community, and we supported the Rangers. So,
wow, 10 years.
Yeah,
thank you for your service.
I appreciate it.
It's really, I mean, I don't want to say these kids have no idea of the sacrifices that one makes when.
Yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah. But you know what? This country's still here and we all need to talk to each other.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The military is about as American as you can get because it's just a huge melting pot. I guarantee you're going to be surrounded by people that like different foods, have different cultures, have different backgrounds.
I used to do signings in PXs.
Okay.
Like in Seattle, Bremerton was one that I would go and my paperback of one of my novels would come out and I'd do autographs and all I thought, wow, these poor people.
This show is part of the Barracks Media Network, built by veterans, creators, and storytellers who believe stories change lives. Barracks Media produces podcasts, books, and digital content that amplify voices worth hearing. We help creators launch, grow, and monetize their message without losing their soul. If you've got a story in you or a show in your head, go to barracksmedia.com and start building something that lasts.
They have nothing to do but read because, they're all like, stuck in these places.
Yeah.
My sister was a nurse she was 9 years in the Navy.
Okay.
But she spent a lot of time pulling out Japanese fishermen off the coast of, I called it Ice Station Adak.
Okay.
Where she had to go. But it is a wonderful country. It's a wonderful group of people.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, you know what? We got to start a new network called The Nicest People in America. We don't care what your politics are.
Yep.
We only care that you're in a good, orderly direction.
Yeah.
Right.
I tell everybody I'm politically homeless.
Yeah.
All I care about is take care of the troops. I could care less about anything else.
Oh, God bless you.
So,
that's wonderful.
Well, Miss Laura, why don't you tell everybody again where they can find your podcast and where they can follow you?
Class of 74. The Class of 74, it's everywhere. It's at, Apple. Of course, I can't even remember what it's called, Apple Podcast.
Yep.
That's my car accident showing its ugly head. That's the great place because that's where they do all the ratings, right?
Yep.
So you want to send everybody,
Spotify.
Right. And Spotify. Yep. I'm at Spotify and I don't know, Podbean and you're on YouTube too. I saw that.
Yep.
I subscribed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen is that I'm going to end up interviewing all you guys because this is more fun. I love it. There's something going on in this community that I really like.
Yeah.
And, but then again, I'm just somebody who makes up stories and talks at people. That's why I have to tell your listeners, I started this by writing stories in high school.
Yeah.
So when we had a keg party, I'd get loaded and tell everybody to stop. I got to read you what I wrote today. And that's exactly what I'm doing again. It's like I finish an episode and then I get the microphone and I'm like, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Class of 74. Yeah, it's awesome. Laura,
Absolutely.
But it's fun.
Well, I hope all of you guys take a moment and step back into the old time machine.
Class of 74. It's an ongoing soap opera, but you know what? You can listen to any episode because it'll be interesting. There's a lot of history in every episode.
Yes.
Always something.
Absolutely. So all of you guys go back, check it out, Spotify and Apple. Make sure you leave her a review. Don't be selfish. Don't get the good stuff and don't give anything back. Leave her a like or a review. Those are extremely important for the podcast.
Pandora's another one.
Yep. Right. Absolutely. So I hope all of y'all enjoy. Remember, have a great day. And don't forget, you had to go through the history to get to today.
You've been listening to History Told Forward, a podcast from the Barracks Media Network. Thanks to our guest for sharing their insight, and thank you for listening. You can find more conversations like this across the Barracks Media Network. We'll see you next time.